welcome back to You Better Work. My name's Amy and I have decided to film in a slightly different location today just because this wallpaper is newly up and I've been waiting for ages for it to be up and I love it so much, and so I decided to fashion a really awkward angle and film half in front of it, but the chair I have is too low, so I'm half in front of that and half in front of an unfinished cupboard, but a very beautiful unfinished cupboard. So yeah, bear with, we are still doing lots of work on the house, and yeah, have had to put it on pause because we're saving up for a big holiday in a couple of months' time, which I'm really looking forward to. But yeah, it's one of those things where I want everything at once and everything costs money, and yeah. Anyway, I hope you're good. I hope you've been enjoying the lovely weather if you're in the UK. And yeah, I really just wanted to talk today about tips for PhD upgrade. Got my notes as usual. I had my upgrade a couple of months ago now. So for those of you who don't know, I am a PhD student, but I do it part-time and I'm in the second year of study, so I'm technically coming to the end of my first full year of study. And so I had my PhD upgrade slightly later than if you were doing it full time, when it would be in your first year of study rather than your second year, if that makes sense. So I should probably start by explaining what a PhD upgrade is. So in the UK, when you register to do a PhD, you'll actually be registered for an MPhil, a Masters of Philosophy, which kind of sits somewhere between a Master of Arts or Master of Science and the PhD. So to my knowledge, the reason that this was kind of brought in was because people would do 3 or 4 years of study, get to the end of their PhD, submit their thesis, go to their main viva, and be told this wasn't a PhD level project, or the way that you write isn't at a PhD level. And you've then spent the money on the tuition fees, the time, the effort, poured your heart into it, and really it should never have been allowed to be entered as a PhD. So this kind of milestone means that you can know that your project is of a PhD level, there's enough to look at in the project. It's got to be that step up from, an MA dissertation where you're writing it for 6 months or whatever, up to something that you can study for 3 to 4 years and write 100,000 words on. So although it's a bit weird, I think it has been put in place for really good reasons, and I would have hated to get to the end of the PhD and be told it wasn't a PhD worthy project. I think if you've already got funding for your PhD, then you know that it is a PhD level project, but still that idea of writing at a PhD level and fitting in with your institution's expectations is still really good to have a line or a marker in the sand, should I say, that means that you know that you can progress on to the next bit with confidence and you're not going to get to the end of 4 years and be told, what have you been doing? So that's a little bit of a background, and then once you upgrade, you are officially then a PhD student, but you are classed as a PhD student before that. If for some, unforeseen reason you fail the upgrade a couple of times, then you will be told to just carry on and do an MPhil, which is a longer dissertation, I believe. I'm not sure how long. And you come out with an MPhil qualification. So I don't know of anyone that has happened to myself, but I guess that's there as a safety net, just in case. And for me, I was really, really nervous about it. So I just wanted to record a quick video with some of my tips and ways that I prepared for it. There's a few blogs and articles online of things to do. I think there's similar processes in different countries that are different, but in the UK, you kind of put together a portfolio of writing, which is different requirements for each university, and then you defend them in kind of what's colloquially known as a mini viva. So the viva being at the end of the PhD when you defend your full thesis, but the mini viva being when you just talk about the piece that you've submitted for the upgrade. So I am registered to the University of Exeter, and for Exeter you have to submit kind of an abstract, a contents outline, so what your chapters are going to be, a proposal for the research, and a draft writing sample, a timetable, and I think that's about it. And I guess the first thing is just to say that your supervisors should have indicated to you if you're really not going to hit that milestone. So if they're encouraging you to put your work in for the upgrade, chances are that's because they know that you are more than ready for the upgrade. So that should give you a little bit of comfort. And so I'll just go through my list of points, I guess. Firstly, I would say prepare early. I started writing things like literature reviews and methodologies and the research proposal kind of right from the beginning, and submitting those to my supervisors for feedback at the supervisions. Someone else has asked me to do a video about what PhD supervisions are like, so I will do that. But that's what I've been doing sort of throughout my PhD supervisions. And the earlier you start, you know, the more chance you have to refine. And I think that I got quite frustrated at one point because I felt like I was preparing this piece of writing specifically for the upgrade. You know, I was like, it's not going to do anything, why am I doing it? And then I changed it into being an introduction for my entire thesis. So obviously it will change numerous times throughout the PhD, but once I started to shape it as an introduction, it was actually a really helpful exercise to do and to look back on, and it really shaped my argument, and I really worked at improving my writing skills. You know, I'm not naturally the best writer. I'm much more comfortable presenting my work. I know people who are the opposite way around, but for me, I don't find that writing comes easily to me. But I've actually really enjoyed the process of honing the writing and learning writing as a skill, and seeing it develop. So not only that, but also kind of carving the argument and having the chance to really kind of start to hone in on a piece of writing and start to think about all the things that you've read, all the things that you've done. You know, I've done some interviews already, and that was really, really helpful. On the back of that is check the criteria carefully. So one of the key things, at least at Exeter, about the upgrade is that you have to submit all of those things that I've just said. They have to be in a particular format, a particular order, etc., etc. And so normally on the website it will say you need to submit this, 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 and this. And my supervisors were really good at being like, you need to make sure that you've got everything, so they've got no kind of reason, a silly reason to fail you, like you didn't do an abstract or you didn't do your contents or something like that. Because I guess it's worth saying that the outcomes of the PhD are, I think, redo, so not fail, but you know, you didn't pass, pass with corrections or pass, and I got pass, which is great. But yeah, so long as you have all of the things that you need to have, at least one of the reasons that you won't fail is on because you didn't include something. The next thing I would say is use all of your supervisor's advice. I really wanted them to kind of shape that writing sample and really support me with that, so I did submit that back to them a few times for comment, and I just found that really helpful, especially because I was trying to develop my writing and I wanted to kind of get their opinion on, have I gone too far on this style, what about this? I've tried some different things out with my referencing and things like that, so I just wanted to get their opinion. And although they're not going to be on your upgrade panel, they are kind of two academics, they probably have other PhD students, they know what's worked at upgrade, so really take all of their advice, particularly as it is so different institution to institution. One of the pieces of advice that my supervisor gave me was, hay fever, was to practice saying what your thesis is about in 3 minutes or in a couple of sentences, so slightly longer and slightly shorter. Apparently this is also good practice for the final viva as well, but a lot of people struggle with it. Obviously there's so much kind of nuance and specific things that you're looking at, and it can be really difficult to just sum up in a clear way what it is about. But I found that really, really useful, and I did get asked that in the mini viva, and I think it is quite a common question to kind of sum up what it's about in a couple of sentences. But also it just gets you familiar, you know, in terms of when you go to things and you want to network with people, succinctly explaining what your thesis is about is really helpful. So that's a good starting place. And then from there, I really kind of practiced lots of questions. So I went online, I looked at what people got asked at their upgrade, I looked at what people got asked at their viva. Obviously the final viva, some of the questions weren't relevant, so I didn't practice those, but I just wrote a load on flashcards and got my partner to ask me some of them, practiced like picking them out randomly myself and answering them. And I think also what I would say is practice aloud, because when you practice something in your head, or I don't know, just sort of type bullet point answers out or something, it's very different to actually putting it in your own words. So I think practicing answering the questions aloud was really helpful for me. And even though some of the questions were worded slightly differently, because there are a lot of questions that commonly come up, you know, it was easy to kind of tailor things that I'd practiced to what they asked me. On top of that, I also would recommend familiarising yourself with your portfolio. Some of the things I'd written more recently, some of the things I'd written a few months ago, so I wanted to make sure that I really had a handle of everything that was in there. You can have, or you can at Exeter have a printed copy of the portfolio with you. My upgrade was done online, so I just had that kind of, you know, like I've got my notes now, you can't see them, but I could refer to them if I needed to. But I printed it off before the upgrade, and I went through familiarising myself with it, reading it back through, but also putting post-it notes of possible questions on each section, you know, in terms of, might they say, why haven't you referred to this person, or have you heard of this person's work, or why have you written it in that way, or whatever it might be. I just put post-it notes on those particular bits so that when I was reading through it, again, I could just practice answering things that came back to stuff that I anticipated they might ask me. And I think that that's really useful, as I say, because you're writing it over potentially a year, or in my case 2 years, so I couldn't remember everything, and just being really familiar with it so that when they pick something up you can quickly turn to it and be like, yes, I know this bit and I can answer that question. And the other thing you can do is know your panel's interests, so they're normally internal for the mini viva, and just looking up on their kind of staff profile what their research interests are, how it relates to yours. You know, there might be someone a little bit tangentially related, there might be someone super, you know, interested in what you're doing, but you can then start to get a sense of what angles they might take on your work and how to come back to their questions. It can just all give you a bit of a heads up about the direction they might take the conversation in. And the final thing I would say, which everyone told me and I was like, yeah, it's not going to be fun, why are you saying to enjoy it, is enjoy it, because it actually was really fun. Obviously I had passed, and I was told at the start of the conversation that I had passed, which I think happens sometimes and not others, and same with the main viva, sometimes they tell you at the start that you've passed and other times they don't. But regardless, you know, they are internal people for this mini viva. They want you to do well, they want to make sure you've passed, they know that your supervisor probably thinks that you are ready to upgrade, and I guess the thing is, you don't often get a chance to talk to someone at this stage that's read your work. You know, 2 people that I had never spoken to about my work had read 12,000 words that I'd written on it, and I was able to have, you know, an in-depth half an hour, 45-minute conversation with them, about it and what they liked and what I could improve, and came away with some ideas, but also some confidence that what I was doing was interesting. And I don't know, it just felt like a renewed sense of pride and interest in what I was doing, which I didn't expect because, like I say, I was really nervous. I didn't want to write the portfolio, and yeah, I didn't anticipate that, but there we go. So I think just try and relish that opportunity that you don't get very often, or at least I don't. And that's it really. If you are preparing for your PhD upgrade, all the very best of luck. If you're thinking about doing a PhD and unsure about some of the processes, I hope that's been a bit of an insight into one of the first kind of milestones in the PhD process. And yeah, just I continue to work towards the next goal. I've got some conferences coming up, some field work next year, and yeah, just really enjoying it. It is lonely, it is difficult, but I am overall at the moment still enjoying it. So I hope it's nice to hear a positive PhD experience, because I think a lot of people talk about the negatives and not so many talk about the positives. So yeah, best of luck if you are preparing, and I hope you have a lovely week. See you.